I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What's up, guys?
What up, what up,
Guys,
what up, what up, what up?
We are back. Oh my gosh. Just gets crazier with the new Pope, right?
We're back. The new
We're
Pope
back.
is crazy.
With the new
Love
Pope.
and tenderness and freakiness.
Yep, you know it. Back here with the new Pope. After show here on AfterBuzz TV tonight. We're covering season 2, episode 3. We're going to talk about what happens in this episode, the most scandalous Pope in history, and predictions for next week. But first, to my left, my boy. You know him as Al Gragg.
Hey, everybody, your boy LG. Just ready to hold it down for my girl Jess. Let's do this. We're doing it again. We're back in the house. Another season.
I love watching the show with you because you crack me up about everything. So let's just get right to it. The first question I have is the first scene right out of the gates with this is what is the deal with the millipedes? Has anybody figured this out yet? Did you notice the millipedes?
I did notice that.
So that was the bug, I guess, that was crawling in his dad's ear.
And I thought it was a slug.
Yeah.
But did somebody say something about a slug later on? Did his brother say something about a slug?
Somebody said something about a slug at some point.
Yeah.
So it was a millipede, and it goes back to a flashback with John and his brother, and they're looking at a millipede, and they're saying, "I'm watching God."
Yeah.
I don't know what this is about.
I don't know. It's very abstract.
Yes.
It's very surreal. John and his twin brother Adam, and we just know that John Brannox continues to tell us that he kind of lived in his brother's shadow. His parents thought the world of his brother, and he obviously had this inferiority complex, and he had this daddy complex. Oh, hey, here's the thing. Maybe the slug or the millipede might go back to the box. Because that's the only thing that we keep seeing that we don't know what's in it.
We're going to find out the meaning of this millipede, but you're right in what you say about Adam and John, because you even see a scene, another flashback, where they're buttoning their clothes.
Yeah.
And Adam gets done quicker than John. It's like a competition. He's like, "Oh, I'm done." And
then he
gets
hits
all
him,
mad and he pushes him.
Bap! I was like, what the hell? I was like, okay.
So we see more of this. There's so much stuff that happens in this episode that it's just so random. So that happens. And then they're talking about Sophia. Sophia has a big role these last 2 episodes. Everybody's obsessed with her. She reminds me of Mary Poppins, so I don't get it.
A sexy Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
Everybody's obsessed with her. Even Brandon's, you could tell he's kind of intrigued by her. And I was like, in the back of my head, I was like, well, of course, that would be the obvious thing to be taken by Sophia. So I was wondering if he was just going to go the obvious route. I'm that guy. You see there's this sexiest girl in the room and knows she's sexy. I'm going to be the one. I'm going to be nice, but I'm not going to treat her like she's super sexy. I'm going to treat her like everybody else. So anyway, that was kind of, I don't know. Maybe that's my own personal issues with women. I'm telling on myself.
All of our secrets
my own psyche and my own issues. But but he acknowledged that he thought she was very striking and intriguing, and she seemed to reciprocate. But obviously she charms everybody.
Right. So they spend some time together, and just like you said, she's charming him. But it's so funny because they talk about all this random stuff. They talk about their favorite actors.
I love that.
And and she says that Brannox reminds her of her favorite actor, John Malkovich.
Yeah, that was the most self-conscious moment of the show.
It was great. So I thought
he's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so that was so great. And then also the Meghan Markle keep calling and texting,
cool.
What do I need to wear? And he's like, wear the yellow because it goes with your skin complexion and all this. And he's like, oh my God, she calls me all the time to ask me for fashion advice because she thinks I'm gay.
So to me, and which leads to a whole other thing. But by the way, those little moments, I think, which are very, I guess, you almost feel like they're breaking the fourth wall because they're so self-referential,
totally.
Like the John Malkovich line and very self-aware and, talking about Meghan Markle. But they do it in a way that, again, I just think it's clever and it's funny. So
I think it's hilarious,
it doesn't take me out. So, yeah,
I love it. No, I thought that was great. So it's funny because we see John with Sophia at first, and he's kind of going through his rounds with each person that has come to visit. So next, then he goes to Gutierrez, and they become friends, basically.
Yeah, and possibly more. I don't know.
So that's the thing. Yeah. So I was like loving this scene because I love Gutierrez. I think he's just like a nice guy.
We all love him.
Yeah. So they're going through this, and he's like, "You think I'm a socialite? You think this, and then he's like, "I would be honored to be your friend," and it's so cute. It's a really cute moment, and then they have this weird thing where like he holds his shoulder, and then there's the other cardinal who's like, can he see what's going on?
And I didn't know, was that Voiello looking or somebody?
No, it wasn't Voiello.
Okay, it was the other priest?
Yeah.
The other cardinal?
The other cardinal that was there.
I think, is that the one who confronts him later on and is like, yeah, I'm the one who's outgoing and ambitious, or is that somebody else?
No, that's somebody else. So I'll tell you who I think that is. No, this is the guy who made a move on Gutierrez the first night they were there.
Yeah, I thought that's the same guy.
Okay. No. I think it's a different guy. I'll tell you who I think that guy is. But so he was like somehow like, I don't know if he was like seeing, if he could like see in the window and seeing
clocked.
this. It was just kind of weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
It was a weird moment.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, see, that's this whole thing is about. Realizes so much more. It's all about secrets, and that's the problem with the church. There's so many secrets, but people eavesdropping and learning things. But back to the relationship you alluded to with John and his new friendship with Gutierrez. Well, first of all, I love the fact that John he's just kind of a keep it real guy. He just lays his cards out,
definitely.
And what does he accuse Gutierrez of? You think I'm a socialite. Right, like you think I'm shallow or whatever.
Yeah.
And I forget how he characterizes Gutierrez, but neither of them were offended, which I like. Both of them were just kind of like accepting, okay, this is your perception of me. And Gutierrez is like, yeah, well, it may be true. And, and the Last Supper was a social event. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's like it's a good thing if you're social.
Yeah,
right?
so definitely, like you said, John invites him to be friends, and I just thought there was this whole other subtext, and not just him putting his arm on it, but I thought there was almost like this whole other romantic subtext to it. And again, they're obviously they're toying with that because in the previous scene, like you said, when he was talking to Sophia, she asked him who was gay, and he kind of like laughed it off, like how dare you,
right.
Which he doesn't have to be, but it was just I think he just also he's one of those people who just what's the word I'm looking for? He thrives in the mystery too, and just leaving people, kind of like mystified.
Yes, I agree with that. So then after we see John with them, we see John with his parents, and like this is a whole crazy scene because he is like yelling at his parents and like going crazy, basically telling them like, I'm gonna become the Pope.
Right, and he's also having like these crazy flashes. Or like one time his dad flashes into somebody younger, and I'm like, is that the younger version of his dad? And then some other people appear on the bed in the darkness
and
behind
the mom
them.
changes into somebody.
Yeah, so I'm wondering if those are all these people, authority figures, who made him have doubts about himself and low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Where he's kind of like getting back at as he's kind of telling his parents, you thought your other son was going to be the Pope, but it's going to be me, And anyway, so I thought that was very revealing about his psyche.
Right.
I mean, we all have, what it is? I think we all have points of low self-esteem, but you would never think to see it, I guess, in a Pope.
Totally. So that's a really good point.
Yeah. So that's, I don't know, that's the intriguing part.
And that's something that later when Lenny's having this like talk with him, which you don't really know if he's having the talk or you don't know what the talk's about, but Lenny says to him like, you need to grow up.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like but yeah, and he has this. This is what he basically says, and I've had this voice at certain times, but it's like nobody likes me, or God doesn't like me.
Oh yeah,
and it's like it's so personal and fragile. But then Lenny says, like I thought God didn't like me, or God didn't like me,
right?
Until I worked hard and I deserved and I earned it. But that's kind of like the difference between them two. Is that Lenny was definitely more of a. Obviously more like kind of like suffering is holy, but he was definitely more about works. And, you work hard and that's how you become righteous, as opposed to what I like about John, he seems to be more about compassion, and like embracing the fragility in people. So.
Yeah, and I think that makes him look fragile. and he even says that too, but like he looks like weak and like breakable, and Lenny's like this tough guy who's like so confident.
Lenny's a stud who walks around like with his shirt off, and he's
exactly
John's the guy who's like always leaning back with his mascara on.
Right. So when when they confront him about becoming Pope, at this point I'm thinking he's going to tell them, because he just went to his parents and talked to his parents about I'm going to become the Pope. But then he goes the next day and has everybody come in the room, and he's like, I'm not going to become the Pope. I'm not going to do it.
I love that.
Why?
Yeah, that's just part of his. I think, and that's also just true to his personality. I think he has all these doubts, and he is indecisive, and he probably does think that he's not up to the job, which he said.
Right. And so that's when he has the little talk with Lenny too, when he goes outside, and Lenny speaks some words of wisdom to him. And I just wonder how that conversation is in real life. Is he hearing this in his head? You know what I mean? Because
I'd like to think it's just. And sorry to cut you off.
No.
But I like to think it really is, whether it's Lenny's spirit coming around or Lenny's essence coming around and talking to him.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yes. I love Lenny.
And one of the things, and I'm sorry, Jess, but just what I feel like he keeps going back to, and I don't want to step, because there's a little reveal about, how they actually come to appointing him as the Pope. But I love the fact that sometimes it's strength can be in weakness, and maybe perhaps feeling that you're not necessarily up to something is I don't know, it's probably normal to a certain extent.
Right. And I actually, that's a lot of what this episode feels like, which I'm glad you said that, because even Voiello says stuff to him that makes him feel that way. They say to him oh, only God would be, only God is perfect enough to take on this task or whatever. Right. But what I thought was so funny in this episode was Voiello. I just love him, but later in this episode, so after he says, I'm not going to become the Pope, Voiello lets everybody know, I'm the master persuader. I can definitely get him, I'm going to manipulate him into doing this. And he's just speaking so highly of how great he is at persuading anybody to do anything, right? So he goes in there, last ditch effort to try to get him on board. And he walks in and he's talking to Brannox and saying his goodbyes, and we got to go home.
And he's
back to the Vatican.
We got another Pope picked out. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Yeah. I knew exactly what he was doing too.
His reverse psychology.
So at first I was it's not going to work. So yeah, they have to go home tomorrow, back to the Vatican, because it's Pope Francis's funeral. So they're leaving by, we've already decided unanimously on another Pope, so we'll talk to you later. And he turns around and you can see a look on Voiello's face, oh my God, it didn't work. What am I going to tell everybody? Because I just bragged about how good I was.
Right.
And as he's about to step out the door, he's wait.
Right before he leaves.
I gotta know. Tell me the guy's name.
Yeah, and it's appealing to someone's, also partially appealing to someone's vanity too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
So yeah, I love that reversal. And while it seemed, I don't know, on a certain level, it seems very elementary, but sometimes the most best plays are the most, simplest plays, I guess.
Yeah.
Reverse psychology, whatever.
Yeah, so, it worked, because as they're leaving, the butler comes out and he's wait. Brannox has to sit up front because he gets car sick. So they're we got him.
Yeah, so he changes his mind. He's bringing his dog and all that good stuff.
They're going to head to the conclave.
Yeah.
And he confronts Voiello in the car and says, hey, I looked up this guy in the yearbook to see who he was, and he's not there. He's yeah, because he died 60 years ago.
Yeah, so he's BSing him the whole time.
He's you rascal. He was okay with it, I guess. So
yeah,
they go to the conclave, and Brannox becomes the Pope.
He becomes the Pope. And there was one ironic vote for Lenny, too, just to let us know that he's still out there, I guess. But yeah, he wins the election.
Did you notice that Brannox does not wear eyeliner when he's in his cardinal outfit?
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I didn't make that distinction. Good call.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so the eyeliner's gone.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Right. Yeah. For something to be said about that.
Yeah.
That's telling. I thought it was gonna be the Pope that wears eyeliner, but that's more to more.
So
be
maybe
revealed.
he's becoming something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of other stuff going on aside from just us trying to get the new Pope at this point, right? We see Pope Francis's funeral, and it's I don't know if that's how a real Pope funeral goes, but
when they hit him on the head with the hammer.
Yeah. With a gavel, and they ask him are you sleeping? Are you sleeping? Nope, he's dead. It's maybe that's what they did back in the old days when medicine wasn't a thing, but it's time to hang that tradition up, I guess. It was weird.
We're not replacing you, putting you in the ground till we know for sure.
Yeah, all the doctors checked and you're dead, but let me just make sure you're not. Yeah. Maybe he could perform a miracle and he'll become alive. I don't know.
Right,
but
you never know.
He's dead, so that's that. And then Ester has a whole separate situation because her and her son Pius are about to get kicked out of the place that they're living when all of a sudden this Fabiano guy rolls up to her son's birthday party.
Right.
Weirdest dude.
And here's I loved him initially because they showed him like playing soccer with the kids.
Yeah.
And that kind of reminds me of a teacher that plays with the kids. I thought, as opposed to like having this distance between you and the children.
Yeah.
So I immediately liked that aspect of him. Also, he had on the sunglasses and the blonde hair. I'm getting like this whole David Bowie vibe from him. So he's a character.
Yeah, I mean, just based on the way that he was dressed and his hair and everything, I was like, this dude is like, I just did not get good vibes from him. And
you got a
was
sleazy kind of vibe. It was just
like an awkward like conversation that he had with Ester for the first time, and she's like, yeah, when he's like, do you mind watching my son Marcelino because I gotta go? And she's like, well, where are you going? He's like, I'm like, where are you going, bro? And he's like, to watch the sunset. It's like, what?
Okay,
what
that's okay.
Going on?
The thing is, I love that you caught that because to me, I didn't know whether that was, and I'm glad that gives me more faith in the writing. I didn't know if that was the writer's way of saying this is my portrayal of somebody that's cool, versus your perception, which is more of like this guy's is like a kind of a slimy wannabe, kind of an oily guy.
Yeah,
that was what you got. So. What he turns out to be later on.
So that's with that guy. So let's just keep going on with the storyline because it's just creepy. This episode so creeped me out with this guy. So then, of course, like it's so obvious, like they're gonna sleep together, right? Because like Ester is struggling and she's.
But so soon though, dang, they gotta pop it.
Right?
It was like the first night, right?
So they talk about being, he's a watch repairman, but it's no good anymore because like everybody replaces everything, which I think is totally a valid point. And she's like, some things can't be replaced, right? So he likes that. He shows up to her house with this watch that somebody left like a year ago. And he's like, oh, I have a present for your son since I forgot to bring one. Right. And then they sleep together.
Damn.
It's so weird.
They're sitting there in their underwear.
Yeah, and she's like telling him like to shave his chest and all this. Like
that's what I mean. I love that keep it real aspect about the show. Yeah, I like you. We can keep doing this, but you got to take care of that.
Yeah. So then later you see them talking and Esther's basically like, why can't we move in with you? Because she's struggling. She has to move out.
Which is kind of fast, what I mean?
I know. Yeah. It's quick. And he's like, oh, that's going to traumatize my son because he just lost his mom and all this. So I get it. I mean, it's just fast. Mm-hmm. But he's like, I know. He's telling this story, and I'm just like, get to the point. Like, what is going on? Like, he's telling this long story. I know this lady. She's a lawyer.
She's rich.
Yeah. All this stuff. And I'm just like, oh, my God, what is he getting to?
Let me tell you, he was laying down game like a pimp.
Yeah.
That's how pimps get them. Well, I know you're having a hard time right now, and, you need money, and right now, I know this guy. He might need a little help.
Yeah. That's exactly what he was like. And I was like, get to the point. And she was like, why are you telling me this?
Yeah.
And he's like, basically, her son has like these physical, like, I don't know, like issues.
Yeah, some type of ailment. He's disabled.
Yeah, I can't.
They're very vague about it.
Yeah, we don't know what, but there's some type of disformity with him that is, I don't know, but he's never been with a woman. And basically, for whatever reason, his mom is like, I'm going to pay somebody to be with him, right? So Esther's like pissed. She just like throws something at him. I'm like, you are creepy, dude. Like, we just met you and like all this is going on. Just
wait, on top about that, now what about this part too? And I'm sorry to skip ahead, but she goes to get advice to confess.
I know.
And the guy's like, wow, Esther, you hit the jackpot again. Another
miracle. Yeah. So it's so crazy. Like this whole, this show is like insane, right?
So two things. I could be thinking too far ahead, but one I was wondering is that other pope in on it, the conspiracy to get her to do this, or it's just that kind of like a universal thinking that goes on within all these cardinals and within the Vatican, that there's just this whole like kind of scandalous underbelly where you do what you got to do to get done what you need to get done.
So that's what I'm wondering too, because like, okay, so basically he says something to her when she runs after him and she goes, oh, can I just take off my clothes? Is that good enough?
Right.
And he's like, no, that's not good enough, this, that. And she's like, no, like prostitution's a sin. And then he says something about like this guy's future is more important than your sins or something like that.
Wow. That's why I was trying to get my head around that.
So like it's like, I'm also trying to get my head around that. But so then she goes and asks the guy, and he says, "Oh, you hit another miracle. Go." So, but you're right about like, is this something where they're all like tied in and they're trying to make this happen? Because when she gets there, it's like really weird and creepy. Yeah. And she starts walking up the stairs, and like Fabiano is sitting downstairs, and the old lady comes over and like puts her hand
like they
on
totally
her
seem to be in cahoots. That's what I mean. Yeah. So they have this. They've been kind of like planning this whole thing. So that's another thing that kind of gives us this
something's going on.
This perception that this is one of those like things that's been maybe perhaps part of the culture and that certain people knew about, and just one of the things they need done. So we need to find whoever's the desperate girl who needs money, who's been kind of hanging around. She's the one who usually does this type of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, but like, what's the end goal? Just for that, or is there going to be more stuff that goes on?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of is when you say, or when they refer to this guy, her sins are not being worth it compared to him. Whoever that guy is, or the family is, the mom, powerful, money, probably heavy donors.
Also, so that they say the son is 20. Okay, so he's 20 years old. But when you see the scene where she has her shirt off and he puts his hands up, did you see his hands?
Yeah, his hands were wrinkly, right? And he seemed to have a beard.
Yeah, it's like, I thought you were 20, bro. Like,
did they lie to her?
You look like you're like 70. Get out of here.
So she got catfish on top of it.
Yeah, maybe she got catfish. That'd be hilarious. No, maybe the disformality or whatever is wrong with maybe his like old people's hands or something. But I don't know. I was like, that's not the hands of a 20-year-old dude. But whatever.
He was
she got
looking like Benjamin Button.
Yes, it was weird. So that's Ester and her whole story. Super creepy, like the whole thing.
Poor Ester.
But aside from Ester, we go back to the Pope. He's addressing the public. Everybody loves it. Everybody's cheering. He makes so many good points.
Yes,
he talks about like, we're gonna learn together. You all think that I know stuff. Like, he's so down to earth in these moments. Like, you all think I know stuff. I don't know anything. Let's learn together. He puts a big emphasis on family, which I thought was interesting because his family is so messed up, and that's probably why.
Bingo.
And he talks about prejudices. And just everybody loves it. And he even addresses all the cardinals and talks to them about love and like what that means. And he makes so many good points because he starts talking about like, we should love with tenderness and not passion, because passion is like...
Can I tell you? Okay, he sounded like the Buddhist Pope, and only reason I refer to this just because I practice a little Buddhism, and the essence of it is that obviously practice love and compassion, but anything that you desire too much is going to create suffering.
Yeah.
And so
that's basically what he's saying.
That's basically what he was saying.
Because he said passion is the eternal enemy.
Right.
And so we need to replace it with tenderness.
Right.
And then he tells everybody, if they don't do that, I'll replace you.
Yeah, you'll be out of here, man. Yeah. So, and again, he's like, this is another reason why I like him, why he's the keep it real Pope. While he kind of lured everybody in with we're all learning at the same time, he was also like, but as a father, and even if I tell you to do something, you think it's wrong, and maybe it is wrong, you still got to do it. I know,
because I make mistakes too. I was like, oh, what does that mean?
But he was like, yo, you gotta, toe the line, even if I am wrong, Yeah. So I thought that was very interesting.
So speaking of that made me think back to remember when he was greeting everybody after he became Pope?
Okay.
In the Sixtine Chapel, I mean, all the cardinals were coming up, and he was like kissing them and saying hi. Right. There was a guy that came up to him, and he said, "Do you remember me?"
Yeah.
And that's the guy that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So I think that guy is the guy that was downstairs. Or I keep thinking that it's downstairs, like I know the layout of these people's home, but like with Sophia's husband.
You think
that's him. I think he's the one that's like, I got a secret on Brannox. And they're like, what's the secret? And he's like, ha, 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 So
but Sophia's not married to a cardinal, is she? Or a religious guy?
No.
But you think that was the guy, somebody that was with them?
Yeah. Remember there's three guys down in that room. It was her husband, some other guy, and then this cardinal. And he said, I have a secret. So I felt like that was almost like him confronting him. Like, oh, hey, remember me?
Okay.
Like, I'm not going to have any problems while you're Pope, because do you remember me? Like, I know your secret.
That definitely sounds right.
But he didn't say it like that, though.
No, yeah. I mean, that's why I thought it was the other guy who was like, hey, I am the guy who's ambitious, and that was was more like the kind of keep it real. We'll keep it real with each other. Like, yeah, that is me. So, but maybe you guys can help us out. I mean, I believe you what you said makes sense. But maybe you guys can help us out with identifying these guys, because like I was like trying to figure out what's that guy's name. And
there's so many like new characters that we're like getting to know, and it's just a lot all at once. I just keep thinking about this. Like, this show is so mysterious. Like, you almost have to go back and like rewatch every episode all the time, and then at the end of that season, go back and watch again, because nothing makes sense right now.
Right.
But it will eventually make sense. So aside from that, the only other thing that's going on in this episode is the nuns. The nuns are like trying to get a pot of money so that they can send the one nun whose mom's sick to Lourdes with her mom, because that's what her mom wants to do.
Right.
And there's this guy who must be like an assistant to Voiello or something that they go to ask, and he's just like a total a-hole.
Yeah, and he kind of and he just is like gives them the yeah. Well, got you, no problem. Money to go.
Oh yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, well, we can't spend on extravagant things. And they're like, well, so and so just got a Bentley. He's like, oh yeah, okay, all right, hold on. Gets on a call. Oh yeah, you want to go to this musical? Okay, cool. We'll get pizza afterwards. Okay, bye. Oh yeah, I'll take care of you guys. No worries. It's like,
he sounds just like a Hollywood agent. That's what he sounds like.
So obviously he doesn't care at all. They know that he doesn't care. So they see all the cardinals walking into somewhere, and probably the Sistine Chapel, and the nuns start running, and they're like, he's like, whoa, slow down, and they're like, no, Voiello. They start yelling to him, Voiello. They're trying to get his attention. Voiello stops for a second, looks.
Okay, that was the thing I was going to ask you. You basically, it was like if he was down, he would turn around and address them instead of just like stop, look, and like keep going.
He left.
Basically,
I was like, come on, dude, what the hell?
Yeah, so I mean, but are we really surprised if Voiello too with that move?
But I was just hoping that he would, because I love him. But no, he doesn't care. He just goes
he's a
up,
bastard.
And he's like, oh, I spoke to him, And so.
Oh, can I say one other thing about the nuns too? I don't know if you're going to get to this, but the whole sexuality of the nuns.
Oh my God! Yeah.
We talked about the opening scene with the music video and stuff, but then there's this nun who has this little rendezvous with
Faisal.
Faisal.
Yeah.
And Faisal, he was just a guy who was living there, right? And I'm assuming he's one of the migrants that just came.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
From when Francis II was like, everybody come and crash, and so she has this interesting little liaison, and when she takes her top off, they're intercutting between that scene where Ester has her top off.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this client, this invalid. But one of the things you and I were remarking on, the nun, she was really pretty. Her name is Katrina.
Yeah.
But they also, when she took her shirt off, I feel like their casting is very intentional.
Yeah.
And when they want someone to appear one way, it's very clear. And clearly they want her to be somewhat androgynous, or a body to look androgynous.
Yeah.
That was my impression.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, that's what we both thought.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then also there's so much stuff happening with the nuns, because every intro is different with the nuns dancing, and then there's this going on with this nun and this Faisal guy, and then also
is she the one that gets the tattoo?
Yeah. Then there's the nun getting the tattoo at the end. So, yeah.
The fight the power nun sign.
I'm thinking that's the nun whose mom is sick, and she's like rebelling at this point.
That would make sense.
The nuns are going wild.
Yeah, man.
So,
yeah, you got to look out for the nuns, man.
I know, my girls.
Your girls.
So, yeah, so that's basically it, and I guess we'll see what happens next episode. But until then, Al has one of the most scandalous popes in history that he wants to tell you guys about.
Everybody.
Because these guys are crazy.
Yeah. These popes are scandalous. We love these popes. We love the new pope. We love the young pope. I know, do we? Well, we're very intrigued by them.
Totally.
So
yes.
As the episodes go on, we get to see a deeper and deeper glimpse into the into the really shady culture, the subculture that exists there, this culture of kind of corruption. So we're going to continue with the segment of the most scandalous popes. So this week, we're going to talk about Pope Stephen VI. And Pope Stephen VI did not have a chummy relationship with his predecessor, Pope Formosus, and that's putting it mildly. The guy had been dead for several months, but he had his enemy exhumed from 6 feet under and had him put on trial and on punishment, and basically kind of desecrated this guy's body to kind of make these charges of his enemy that had long been dead. And it's safe to say the verdict didn't go Formosa's way. So Stephen commanded his body be dragged to the streets of Rome and dumped into the Tiber River. So what we're also learning is that these popes, they don't forgive very easily.
Right? Like, if you think what's happening in, with these popes that we're watching on the young pope and the new pope is bad, like, think about back then. And also, like, these are the leaders of a religion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess I'm saying is, what we're both kind of saying is, this kind of gives it context. This segment is obviously very funny, and we don't like to attribute these type of acts to stereotypical of popes, but it kind of, the reputation that the papacy has, or just the church, and kind of, I think, what the new pope is poking fun at. This is kind of like that. I agree. That underbelly.
Yeah, totally, because it's something you don't think about, but then when you hear stories like that, you're like, maybe this isn't that far off. So, okay. With that being said, what are your predictions for next week?
Predictions.
I know, I love the lights for the predictions. So tell us what you think.
Predictions for next week. Well, first of all, Lenny cries.
Yes,
because Lenny is sad about all this corruption, and Ester, who he bestowed this wonderful miracle on, even though he won't say it. I don't know. I want to say Lenny's coming back, but I feel like they're not gonna. I feel like they're gonna stretch that out till next week.
Yeah.
We're gonna find out, and this is kind of a selfish prediction, but we're gonna find out more about that Pope who was ambitious and came up to John and said, that is me. I'm the ambitious guy, and blah blah blah. And we're gonna find out if he has something on him, or if he's just legit. Oh, and also another prediction. So I see more developing with John's relationship with Gutierrez. Hopefully.
Interesting.
Yeah. Hopefully a little beyond friends. Doesn't have to be too crazy, but just something a bit more intimate.
Yeah. All right. So in some scenes from next episode, it shows that John wants to go visit Lenny. So we might see more of Lenny this episode.
Okay.
But also he's curious about Pope Francis's death. So I think he's going to start looking into it. And I think he's not going to be as big of a pushover as Voiello thinks he is. And I think Voiello's going to have to duck and run and hide and skirt around whatever happened. Because I think he's going to get in trouble. Not necessarily this episode, next episode, but that's going to be the start.
And one of the reoccurring things is every week they're surrounded by scandal. They're having problems with Islam. The warring factions, Christianity, and this whole cloud of how Pope Francis II died. It seems to cast a dark cloud over them. People don't have a lot of faith in these guys.
Yes. So I guess we'll find out if they're going to find out about Francis' death. So until next time, guys, you know where you can find Algie here at AfterBuzz on the Vikings After Show. Tell them where they can find you.
Everybody, your boy Algie. You can find me on Instagram at Algie_Jamaica House Film, and R.I.P. Kobe Bryant, like our girl Jessie's rocking the jersey.
Love Kobe, yes.
Yeah.
And you can find me, Jessie Zahner, all over social media at Athletic. And until next week, I'll see you guys.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.